I'm Danny Epperson inside the commanding Commodore Dinner Theater in downtown Portsmouth. Thanks for joining me for WHRO Cinema 15. This week, murder, mystery, music, and Denzel. It's 1984's A Soldier's Story. Movie audiences in 1984 had never seen a detective story quite like A Soldier's Story. The film is set near the end of World War II at a segregated Army base in Louisiana. Captain Davenport, a black officer, is sent from Washington to investigate the murder of a black sergeant. From the moment he arrives, the captain's presence turns the heads of white townspeople and the black enlisted men.
Haven't you ever seen a colored officer before? No, sir. Have you, sir?
A Soldier's Story was directed by Norman Jewison, whose diverse resume includes Fiddler on the Roof, In the Heat of the Night, and Jesus Christ Superstar. In 1983, a friend suggested that Jewison drop everything to go and see the off-Broadway production of A Soldier's Play. The play bowled him over, and he knew immediately that he wanted to make the film. Jewison collaborated closely with the playwright Charles Fuller, who adapted his Pulitzer Prize-winning work for the movie screen. The film's small budget didn't allow for big-name stars, but Jewison knew he had all the talent he needed. Several actors from the off-Broadway play were hired to reprise their roles, including Adolph Caesar as Sergeant Waters, Larry Riley as C.J. Memphis, and Denzel Washington as Private Peterson. Howard Rollins Jr. joined the ranks as Captain Davenport. The up-and-coming actor recently earned both Academy Award and Golden Globe nominations for his debut performance in the 1981 film Ragtime. A Soldier's Story earned accolades from critics and ranked high on lists of the best films in 1984. At the Academy Awards, it was nominated for Best Picture. Caesar earned a nod for Best Supporting Actor, and Fuller was nominated for Best Writing. Unfortunately, A Soldier's Story faced some stiff competition from movies like Amadeus, Places in the Heart, and The Killing Fields, and it did not bring home any Oscars. I'll be back after the movie to tell you more about how a future president pulled some political strings to help out the production. But for now, fortify your position on the nearest comfy sofa, consider yourself at ease, and enjoy A Soldier's Story. That's an order. A Soldier's Story was the first time in Hollywood history that black troops were shown marching off to war at the end of a film. Henry Louis Gates writes on the PBS website Many Rivers to Cross that the military was as segregated as the Deep South. More than 2.5 million black Americans registered for the draft when the war began, and 1 million served. But when black men volunteered for duty or were drafted, he writes, they were relegated to segregated divisions and combat support roles such as cooks, quartermasters, or gravediggers. It wasn't until the spring of 1944, after years of pressure from the black community, that the government rescinded its policy excluding black soldiers from combat. 4 years later, in 1948, President Harry Truman issued Executive Order 9981, which ordered the desegregation of the U.S. Armed Forces. While A Soldier's Story was set in Louisiana and Mississippi, the film was shot entirely in Arkansas. Bill Clinton, who was the governor of Arkansas at the time, visited the set to meet the cast and crew. The director took him up in a crane during the baseball game scene to explain wide-angle shots. Because Clinton was an enthusiastic supporter of the project and a believer in the message of the movie, he was happy to help when Jewison called later for a favor. With such a small budget, the production couldn't afford an army of professional extras, so Clinton called in the Arkansas National Guard, who marched onto the set in full military dress for the final scene. Much of Norman Jewison's passion for the film came from his desire to help people understand the history of racial injustice. He wrote in his autobiography that he made movies like A Soldier's Story to get people outraged, but also to show them that there can be a better world. I'm Danny Epperson, and I will see you next week for WHRO Cinema 15 and another classic movie.